And so this medicine is so potent and so powerful. And I love and I'm so excited to have Dan here, who really made the journey and took time to come here and share with us a little bit. So let's give a nice, warm, juicy welcome to Dan Cleland. Woo, 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 woo.
Hey guys, how you guys doing today? Good, enjoying the weather, a little warm? Yeah. So this is actually my second time speaking at Envision. I was here last year and kind of did a little song and dance up here as well. Right, so my name is Daniel Cleland. I'm the founder of Soltara Healing Center, which is an exclusively Shipibo healing center not too far away from here, a few hours north on the Nicoya Peninsula. So that's actually the second retreat center I founded. The first one was in Peru in the Amazon, which I ran for a few years, and that became one of the top-rated ayahuasca centers in Peru. However, decided to sell it and come to Costa Rica for reasons which you may be able to assume. Costa Rica is beautiful. Right. So if you wish to learn more about Soltara, our website is soltara.co. I also produced a couple of documentaries. One was Drinking the Jungle, and the other one was The Plant Teacher, which I just released this year, which is more of an overview of ayahuasca and has some conversations with some of the world's leading experts that we filmed at the Psychedelic Science Conference in Oakland in 2017. I've also, if you'd like to see those, it's drinkingthejungle.com and theplantteacher.com. They're both free documentaries online. I've also published a book called Pulse of the Jungle, which is recap of my entrepreneurial journeys, developing a retreat center and running a retreat center in the Amazon. So that's what I've done, and just want to disclaim that I'm not a healer or a shaman. I don't have that specific type of training. So there are lots of things I don't know about the medicine, many nuances. I'm not really qualified to lead ceremonies. However, I have done many ceremonies. I have worked with a number of different traditions, and ayahuasca has become, has been an integral and very important part of my entrepreneurial journey since 2010, so about 9 years. So I'm not going to give you like an exhaustive description of ayahuasca or a long-winded story about my life. That you guys can research ayahuasca all over the internet. There's all kinds of literature. What I am going to share with you, because I know this crowd is highly entrepreneurial. I think the last gentleman that was up here said 80% of you put up your hands as entrepreneurs. And, I know also with the demographic here, many of you are probably looking to just live a really fulfilling life that is making a positive impact on the world. So I'm just going to share with you a few specific points in time, memorable, pivotal points from my entrepreneurial journey where ayahuasca has either helped me stay on the path I was on or shift gears and go in a different direction. So I guess the best place to start would be at the bottom. In my case, it was quite literally rock bottom. I was coming to the end of my 20s and really quite disappointed with how things had turned out in my life. I'd failed at many things. I barely graduated high school. I dropped out of college before graduating. Couldn't really hold down a job for more than a year. I had no sense of stability or economic security. It was completely broke. I desperately wanted a relationship, but I had zero success with women. And, I had just endeavored to go and further higher education in Australia, which I ultimately failed at. And that failure culminated with one Friday night. I drank a bottle of Jim Beam and decided to go rock climbing at a place called Kangaroo Point in Brisbane. So just before reaching the top of this cliff, I started to panic and I lost my grip and I fell. and plummeted 15 meters to the ground below, which left me in pretty rough shape. I had compound fracture of my femur with the bone sticking out of my leg, and vertical shear fracture of the pelvis. So pelvis was split in half. So after that experience, I found myself in the hospital for 5 weeks, which, needless to say, gave me a lot of time to think about my life and analyze, why I was at the point where I was at. And one thing I realized was that those external circumstances, which were extremely undesirable from my perspective at the time, I was really unhappy with my life and with myself. I realized that was a result of the internal circumstances that were transpiring inside my body, inside my mind, negative thought patterns, negative programming. And I recognize that as a cause and effect. So while being unable to just rectify that by myself personally, that's when I started to research ayahuasca and get really serious about seeking help from the medicine. So really that's where, I made that decision. I decided, okay, this is not good. I need some help. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to take the leap. So fast forward 6 months, and, I was on the road to physical recovery. I had moved back to Canada, and I was just taking a job working as in the fisheries management out in British Columbia, working on fishing boats for a marine research company. And I was just in the training program for that job. I was at a point of kind of being undecided about, is this going to be a career path, or do I not do this? Because I was a little bit scared, going out to live in boats in the middle of the ocean is kind of a big thing. So during this training program is when my first ceremony transpired. I was invited to come down to a ceremony in New Mexico. I went down, and this particular ceremony was extremely big. It was extremely powerful, and many things transpired. A lot of growth transpired there. But as it relates specifically to a change in direction in my life, I just got this really strong message that this job that I had just started was something indeed that I needed to do, but something that would be temporary. And also just the profundity of the experience really set me on this path of wanting to go deeper with the medicine. So I ended up going back to Canada, finishing the training program, starting this job, working at sea for the next 6 months, and while simultaneously looking for the next opportunity to continue working with ayahuasca. And so I found myself doing a month-long dieta in Peru, in Puerto Maldonado, working with ayahuasca medicine and San Pedro. So, a month in the jungle, doing dietas and lots of ceremonies, lots of things happen. I'm not going to go into all the details. But as it specifically relates to a turning point in my journey, ended up getting this incredible inspiration to go and develop my own retreat center. So all these ideas started coming, and during this retreat and after this retreat, designs started coming. I started drafting designs and writing out the concept and kind of just dreaming, my imagination went into overdrive. And so I went back to that fisheries job, and I spent another 6 months working at sea. At which point I decided to act on my inspiration, and I moved down to Brazil, to a city in the jungle called Manaus, a big metropolis in the Amazon. And the idea there was to go and find property and develop a business plan and get investment capital and then go start this retreat center. That was in 2011. So what I encountered was that, based on the fact that, so even though I knew people with money, raising capital wasn't necessarily so easy. I had, as I mentioned, I had no track record. I'd never really finished anything in my life. I had none of my own money saved. I had no higher education. I had no business experience. So while it was a valiant attempt, it ultimately failed. So I went there, I tried, and I failed. But while I was there, I ended up working with the two Brazilian religions, the Santo Daime and the União da Vegetal, which allowed me to continue working with ayahuasca and deepening my practice with ayahuasca and actually experiencing different traditions. So broadening my level of experience. But after that failed, I ended up going back to Canada, getting another job, and, you know, based on my lessons there, I started doing a master's degree. So that was that. Later on that year, I decided to take a different route, and I started my own little tour company, taking people, just small groups of people, down into the jungle to work with ayahuasca. So I was still working in Canada full time, but I started doing that, investing, you know, my money I was earning into doing that. So I did that for a couple of years, running tours, you know, every like 6 months or a few months, small groups, losing money every time, you know. But it was fun, and I really enjoyed it. But at that point, the medicine kind of kept me on the path, because anytime I would do one of these journeys, it would just drive home so much through my own experiences and also through the experiences that other people on these journeys were having, that it just really had such profound and obvious effects on people, life-changing effects on people, including myself. So it just kept, like, every time I do one of those trips, it was like, wow, that was awesome. I've got to do another one. So I did that for a couple of years, and on one of those trips, just beforehand, I met a girl who was interested in the work we were doing, work I was doing as a one-man show. And, you know, we got talking, and it felt like there was a bit of a spark there. So, you know, I invited her to come on that journey with another like 10 people from different parts. And, you know, to help me out, that during that journey, throughout the ceremonial experience, I got a really strong message. So at the time, I was actually kind of obsessed with a different girl who was totally not good for me, but she was kind of leading me down this path, and I was following it because I was just obsessively chasing her. But during that retreat, throughout a series of ceremonies, I just couldn't get this idea out of my head that I had to shift gears. I had to cut the ties with that one and go for this new girl that came into my life who was interested in the work I was doing. So that's what I did. And she joined me. My one-man operation became a two-person operation. I quit my job in Canada, and we went full-time trying to run this little fledgling company. So just doing tours, taking people to other people's retreat center, designing itineraries, you know, doing a lot of like guerrilla style marketing and networking and stuff like that. Wasn't easy, but it was, you know, interesting. And, you know, that led us down a path where eventually we started getting busy, and we started developing the need to actually build our own place. And by that time, you know, I was finishing a master's degree, and we had some actual business experience. We had a track record with the company, and, you know, we had bookings coming in, so we had a little bit of money. So I was able to raise just a tiny bit of cash to get that first retreat center built. Now, another point here where ayahuasca influenced me at a pivotal moment was when we were kind of deciding, like, how do we want to build this place? How big do we want to have it? You know, there are different options. Some centers have like 70 people. Some have like 10 people. So, you know, I just, during one ceremony, I got this really clear message. It was just like letters coming right across the vision. I would just keep it small, keep it small, keep it small. So we decided to cap our capacity at 18 people and keep it small. And the result of that was a really tight family-like vibe that really became part of the essence of that retreat center experience and continues that way today at Soltara. Even though I've been tempted to grow larger with Soltara, I keep scaling back and remembering that, keep it small. So anyways, we built the center. Fast forward 3 years, all kinds of crazy experiences I'm not going to go into. But after about 3 years of running the center, we got to a point where we were breaking up, me and this lady. And, you know, it was something that could have been saved. I knew I could have saved it. You know, we doing ceremonies, meditating on it. I knew I could have saved it, but I just knew it wasn't the thing to be saved. I couldn't do it. So So we let the breakup happen. We sold the center, and by that time was already looking at Costa Rica. It's coming to build a new center in Costa Rica. So June of 2017, getting close to the end here, June of 2017, I start coming to Costa Rica to check out a property. We make a trip back and forth and start developing a business plan and start raising money and finding investors. And this time it was a lot easier because of the previous experience I'd had with the other retreat center. So starting from scratch, building something, a success, and then, you know, people recognize that and were very much more interested in participating in this one. So we built all that out. On November 1st of 2017, I moved here. On November 15th, I signed for the property, and we started building in December. So we opened the following June. December through June was just this like crazy construction phase where we were building the center, and we were developing out the business, building the brand, building the back end, finding people, trying to make sales, you know, all this good stuff. And throughout that process, it was basically like myself and my co-founder, Melissa Stengel, who was actually running operations for the previous business in Peru. So throughout this time, it was like our business. It was like we were the ones who were making all the decisions. We were calling all the shots. You know, it was our vision. We were running everything. Then when we opened up in June, we hired a bunch more people. Yet we kind of continued on with that same type of management philosophy, like we were the bosses, it was our company, we were the mommy and daddy, and everyone else was working for us. Now, we ended up running operations with that kind of mentality until about December of 2018, so just a few months ago. We actually kind of ran into a crisis where people were feeling like, you know, they didn't really like working for an authoritarian regime. They didn't really like feeling they were part of someone else's vision. They didn't really, you know, like being told what to do or feeling like they weren't being listened to. So we were kind of faced with a choice to relinquish some of that control or not. And also they felt that I needed to spend some more time in the Maloka doing more medicine. They felt like I was disconnected from them on the ground. So I started drinking more medicine. I started spending more time in the Maloka, and came to a realization during one ceremony that, well, you really can't escape the consequences of your actions, you know, of your decisions more specifically. You can't change the past, and if you decide on something, the choices that we make, you really have to just kind of accept it and deal with it. So it's important to think about the consequences before you make decisions, rather than try to deal with the aftermath. And I recognize that the juncture that I was at was either relinquish the authoritarian control of the organization and become a democratic organization and work together with the team, or try to hang on to, you know, the control and potentially watch the team fall apart and ultimately the business fail. So, obviously, I chose the former. We adjusted our decision-making processes. We started giving a lot of control to the different people who are working with us, and really letting everybody become managers of their own domains. Really actually stepping out of the decision-making process and letting everyone else become much more autonomous. And it actually not only improved the entire vibe on the team, it improved people's commitments. You know, everybody feels like they're now really part of the vision, really part of the family. The actual product or outcome has become much richer with different people's influence. You know, people feel more committed to the cause. But it's actually made my life a lot easier too, because everyone else is making the decisions. I just have to kind of monitor my own job, and everyone else is doing their own thing. So that is the most recent juncture that has been influenced by the medicine. And so here we are today. Soltara is going strong. We have served hundreds of people. People are leaving happy. We're making a positive impact on people and planet. And personally, I feel like I'm doing something that's living up to my full potential, and I'm really happy and feel fulfilled in my life. So ayahuasca has definitely been an integral part of that trajectory and that journey for me. And I hope that by sharing my story, perhaps it can do the same for you guys. Thank you.